Today I would like to offer a tribute to Mr. Nelson Mandela from 3 Minutes to Understand, to thank him for his enormous contribution to humanity. Mr. Nelson Mandela is especially important to me because I grew up in South Africa. I was there from 1968 to 1973 in the middle of apartheid, and life was sweet for a little white girl of 5. There was no problem at all for me. I didn't feel in any way uncomfortable. And it's really funny to say that because we had bathrooms for men and women, bathrooms for blacks and whites. We had buses for blacks and whites. The blacks would sit at the back, the whites would sit in the front. We had whole villages and towns for blacks and whites, and obviously the schools were separate and everything was completely different. We lived in separate worlds and we shared a world together, but we didn't have a sense of violence in our immediate everyday lives, in our family lives. We had a sense of toleration, of living together, of feeling comfortable. It seemed the most natural thing in the world. Of course, our dear gardener, who was called January, was referred to as a boy, not as a gentleman, not as a man, not as Mr. January. He was 40. And we thought it was natural to say the boy. Today we see the same thing going on in many other places with many other versions. For example, we will refer to women as girls sometimes instead of ladies, and they're well over 18. We can see discrimination about gender, about color, about religion, about culture, about all sorts of things. And one of the main things about discrimination is that we don't really feel uncomfortable about it because it's very natural. It's a way of sorting things out. It's a practical issue in many cases. In many cases it also has an enormous amount of economic content, it has an enormous amount of political content, and it brings along tremendous advantages for the people at the top of the pyramid in the middle of discrimination. But I would like to refer to this intimate discrimination that helps us get out of our comfort zone and grow a little bit. When we discriminate, it usually happens because we have this sense of how weird, how strange, how different. Let's classify, let's put things in different places. Let's try to make things easier to understand. Let's create some order in chaos. Usually when we have a lot of different things going on, we feel quite frightened, and discrimination can come as a way of sorting out our fear and making ourselves feel less fearful, less terrified of diversity, of things that surprise us, of things that are very different to our way of looking at the world because it's outside our comfort zone. And some people with the best intentions of all, because they thought they had a brilliant idea to stop this confusion, this chaos, have implemented amazing systems that were not exactly very useful for the whole of humanity and just for a couple of people, and they have created tremendous suffering. Now, on the other hand, we have Mr. Nelson Mandela. That's the good news. We have somebody who did something extraordinary. Mr. Nelson Mandela did something that is wonderful because he has opened a path for us. He has done something beautiful. He has told us that we can change things by doing 2 things. 1, we do not collude with people who discriminate. We do not accept their way of looking at life. We have a different way of looking at things, and we will endure an enormous amount of discomfort to defend our idea. And 2, we will not go through revenge. We will not become discriminatory as they are. I usually tell my son that one of the worst things that a bad person can do to you is not to make you suffer, but to make you bad. And Mr. Mandela did this to an extraordinary extent. He showed us how to share, how to be fair, how to remain serene, and how to be firm. So from today, from the day that his body left our planet, and from the day that we will miss him tremendously, I'd like to say, Mr. Mandela, thank you. You're still alive. You will always be alive. Thank you for opening that path for us. Thank you very much for being with us and showing us the way.